The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is February 14th, 2019. It is V-Day, and you might be wondering where Basil is. Well, he tried to record. He's been really sick this week, and he was told by the doctors that he has curated and cultivated an impressive collection of infections. So definitely pray for Basil there. He's sick. And he tried. I've had these sort of infections in the lung, and it's nasty. It really is nasty. And Basil tried to record. He actually sent me a couple audio clips of him trying to test out to see if he can podcast. And here's attempt number 1 here.
You're listening. You're listening to Canary Talk. Okay, here we go. You're listening to Canary.
Oh, poor guy. He just can't do it. And then he tried one more time. All right, hold on. Let me try that again. He tried one more time.
Today is February 13th, 2008.
So there you have it. Basil doing his best there, but he's unable to go, so I will be running this solo. And just to get a couple of the housekeeping items out of the way, we have our Facebook community, we have our Twitch channel where we haven't live streamed yet, but we will. We have Canary Cry Radio, we got our Patreon. Shout out to all the Patreon supporters. And of course, make sure to visit canarycrynewstalk.com where you can get the ag list for the week. Shout out to Jen who helps us out with that. And actually, one of these days, Jen is going to hop on here and probably help us out with maybe an extended report, especially if I have to go solo. She offered to help this week, but since it's recording so late here, I'm going to go ahead and do this solo once again. But I know you guys will bear with me here. So, and then also before we jump in here, definitely we want to lift up Nathan Peck, son of Josh and Christina Peck, friends of ours, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with Josh Peck and his work over at Skywatch TV and his books and everything. I believe he was diagnosed with T-cell leukemia, which is not a good sign. So definitely lift up Nathan Peck. The Lord cover him and his family as they go through this process here. But let's get into it because there's a lot to get to, and there's definitely some things that we need to cover. And I hate to, man, this is kind of an up and down, laughter with Basil's sickness, but then, just a little serious note there with Nathan Peck. And then back into Flippy, because of course we got to start everything with the Flippy update. So I apologize for the emotional roller coaster that is the first couple minutes of this episode, but definitely wanted to get some of that news out there because it's important. We got to look out for each other here, and we don't necessarily do that enough on this podcast. So I thought I'd take a moment here and do that. But the first story I wanted to touch on, and actually this isn't much of a story, it's just something that I wanted to bring to your attention. China Xinhua News. Smart Catering. Welcome to Beijing's AI-powered hot pot restaurant with robot chef and waiters. And they have a little 50-second video here that I will play for you. Actually, it's not much in terms of audio. I will go ahead and play it because the music is so uplifting for such a dire thing here, which is basically the soundtrack to human labor going out of style in restaurants. But here we go. This is the video, and I'll read the captions as they move along here. An intelligent hot pot restaurant in downtown Beijing. And you got the flippy arms all over the place. 18 automatic machine arms sort out dishes in the kitchen. Then they can process up to 8,000 dishes per day. So positive. Uplifting. They got carts moving around. They got broth seasoned by AI machines or automatic flavoring machines. Okay, that's enough of the music there. But anyway, so yeah, we'll leave the link. You can check out the video. A bunch of flippy arms doing work. This is just a restaurant totally done by these robot chef and waiters. Live action, you can see them working. And yeah, there you go. The takeover is happening on one tweet at a time, right? And then the other flippy update that we got here is from the Mercury News. Robot made coffee and burgers in San Francisco, how automation is affecting jobs. And it says here that an employee at Creator, a robotic hamburger lunch spot in San Francisco, California, loads cheese into an automated culinary device. And you can see he's got these tubes of, I guess, burger buns or something. And, it's getting the flippy arm ready to construct burgers. And you got all these tomatoes and onions and different things in these tubes. And there you go. This is the future of our food making is AI robots and Flippy in San Francisco, making its way into more restaurants, doing what it was made to do, flipping burgers and stuff. This is again, I don't know why we just stay with AI, but there's just so much news on AI that it's hard to keep up. We wanted to curate some of it for you in the past few weeks. It's just taken that direction. And of course, Trump signs the AI executive order on Monday, and we'll touch on that in a second here. But just to get to another AI related story, this is sciencefocus.com. Artificial intelligence used to decode rodent chitchat. Despite the popular saying, mice are rarely quiet. They are highly social animals that are constantly communicating with one another via complex vocalizations. But their squeaks can be difficult to pick up as they frequently exceed the limits of human hearing and are so quiet that they can be difficult to separate from background noise. Now, a team at the University of Washington that's investigating the effects of addictive drugs such as alcohol or opioids has developed a piece of software to listen in on the chit-chat of rats and mice. Dubbed Deep Squeak, the program transforms audio signals into sonograms, visual representations of the sounds that can be analyzed using AI techniques similar to those that enable driverless cars see their environment. In this context, however, Deep Squeak is allowing researchers to separate the rodent's call from background noise. Quote, the animals have a rich repertoire of calls, around 20 kinds, said Dr. Kevin Coffey, a postdoctoral fellow in the university's Neumeyer lab. Coffey and his colleagues found that male rodents made happy sounds when they were anticipating a reward such as sugar, or were playing with their male peers. But when they sensed a female rodent nearby, their vocalizations became more complex, as if they were singing a courtship song. This effect became even more dramatic when they could smell but not see the female, suggesting that they have distinct songs for different stages of courtship. That's interesting. Thanks to its low cost and convenience, it is hoped that the technique can eventually be used in the investigation of the effects of addictive drugs by monitoring the psychological state of rodents in various stages of withdrawal. Quote, if scientists can understand better how drugs change brain activity to cause pleasure or unpleasant feelings, we can devise better treatments for addiction, said laboratory director Professor John Neumeyer. So there you go. The Deep Squeak, decoding rodent chit-chat. AI at work, folks. Doing work. And this brings us to the executive order that Trump signed, the AI executive order. And I'm going to read just a couple snippets out of the New York Times treatment of this news. And the headline is Trump signs executive order promoting artificial intelligence. And of course, it goes into some stuff here. I'm going to read some quotes out of it because I think you guys heard about it, and you don't need to have it reiterated over and over. But it says here, the EO aimed to better educate workers in the field, improve access to the cloud computing services and data needed to build AI systems. Now that's a key there. It allows services and data needed to build AI systems and promote cooperation with foreign powers But the order did not set aside funds for AI research and development, and the administration provided few details on how it planned put its new policies into effect. I think that's a typo here on New York Times. In any case, of course, they're not going to come up with the budget because all the people that have the AI, the people that already have it, you have the government, the secret government, the black budget government, so to speak, and all the tech companies. So you don't need to set aside a budget for AI. The money's already pouring into that stuff. And then it goes on. The U.S. is engaged in an increasingly bitter trade war with China. And it says that while American companies like Google and Amazon are now leaders in AI, experts in the field are concerned that China could surpass the U.S. in developing of technologies that will power surveillance systems and autonomous weapons, as well as driverless cars and a wide range of internet services. I find it so interesting, of course, the New York Times here, comparing the U.S. AI race with China and saying, hey, well, we got to keep up with China. Their power surveillance systems surpasses ours. We must keep up. And I just think it's funny that it's this AI arms race that they're staging here, and the development of autonomous weapons and driverless cars and wide range internet, all these tools that we are fighting against China to build. Who's going to have it first? It's pretty ridiculous in my opinion, and it's all just a stage show, just my personal opinion, to carry out and to continue to build the infrastructure that is being led by the Antichrist spirit here. So it says many AI experts have worried that the top talent in the U.S. is moving to companies like Google and Amazon and away from government agencies. Well, there you go. It addresses the point I was making earlier. But again, of course, the New York Times is going to try to spin everything to be critical of everything Trump. So there's always this, a veneer of negativity here. At the same time, the AI issue, or at least the technological issue, was always a concern that I noticed. Just where the people Trump are appointing and talking to in terms of technology, his 5G stuff, and now the AI executive order, which again, in some sense, this New York Times article is just propaganda from the technocrats anyway. So they're trying to maybe not be so harsh, but pick on the fringes here and come up with things that don't really matter as criticism, like, hey, where's the budget for it? When in reality, I mean, the actual money is being poured into the thing anyway. And really, the part that I think that they don't like is this idea that Trump is going to create this American values AI, and that's the part that's really interesting. And I don't know if this article necessarily touched on that, but I know the sentiment was out there and the report was out there that, they're going to try to make a nationalistic or American, again, an AI with American values, so to speak. And that, pinning it against China and maybe China having different values, moral values built into the AI. You can see how these world powers are forming and changing in their strategy in this cybernetic era. It's just what it is. It's crazy, but it's happening. And the United States has their role to play in this technocracy that is emerging right in front of us. And so anyway, I wanted to touch on the Trump AI EO thing because we just talk so much AI, and I'm sure you guys heard about it. And so I wanted to give you my 2 cents here. But the other thing I wanted to do is play this clip, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a couple years ago, the New Yorker made a video, and according to the New Yorker, I don't know if this is completely accurate or true or not, it's the New Yorker, but this was published back in July of 2017. You guys might remember it. A Trump speech written by artificial intelligence, and they fed 270,000 words spoken by Donald Trump into a computer program that studies language patterns, and the system analyzed word choice and grammar and learned how to simulate Trump's speech. And you know what? Actually, now that I'm looking at this, we might have reported on this, but I don't believe we had a clip. And here's a clip. This is a level 4 Trump AI speech thing that came out of analyzing 270,000 words spoken by Trump in various places in media and stuff like that. So this is being recreated by some guy dressed like Trump, but this is the text that came out from the AI after analyzing Trump.
And we will build brutal energy cut into a much better home. It's a movement toward the beautiful legal scams and better share. And it was a jiggly deal. And I don't think they're never worth in the middle deal to be parted to Mexico. It's Tawali. I have a toupee. You don't even get 1.6 trillion dilation and billions of dollars. I mean, I end illegal immigrants. They're scared. I promise. In the prison way, our energy revolution plan for my friendly and deportant. And you're not going to be disqualified.
So if you thought there were some words in there that you didn't recognize, that's because the AI at this particular level, the level 4, according to the video, started coming up with words, kind of like how Trump did with certain words or tweets, maybe during his speeches or rallies or something like that. So, I'm sure that there's human influence in how these, texts were selected to be performed by this guy. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of funny. Trump and AI, a history there in the public, so to speak. But let me move on here. There's other stories I want to get to. This one is certainly fascinating. I guess we're into the main 2 stories of the episode. And the first one is by sciencealert.com. Artificial intelligence has found an unknown ghost ancestor in the human genome. Interesting. Nobody knows who she was, just that she was different. A teenage girl from over 50,000 years ago of such strange uniqueness, she looked to be a hybrid ancestor to modern humans that scientists had never seen before. Only now researchers have uncovered evidence she wasn't alone. In a new study analyzing the complex mess of humanity's prehistory, scientists have used artificial intelligence, AI, to identify an unknown human ancestor species that modern humans encountered and shared dalliances with on the long trek out of Africa millennia ago. Quote, about 80,000 years ago, the so-called out of Africa occurred when part of the human population, which already consisted of modern humans, abandoned the African continent and migrated to other continents, giving rise to all the current populations, explains evolutionary biologist Jamie Bertrand-Petit from the Universitat Pompeu Fabra in Spain. As modern humans forged this path into the landmass of Eurasia, they forged some other things too, breeding with ancient and extinct hominids from other species. Up until recently, these occasional sexual partners were thought to include Neanderthals and Denisovans, the latter of which were unknown until 2010. But now, a third X from long ago has been isolated in Eurasian DNA thanks to deep learning algorithms sifting through a complex mass of ancient and modern human genetic code. Let me pause there for a second, because that right there is something I know I have mentioned somewhere in the past, right? That's one of those called it moments, where I just knew that this AI was going to be used to analyze all sorts of data, right? Or any sort of data that it can get its hands on. Of course, the human still has to shape the context to analyze the data, but in this case, we're talking about human genome, which presumably, as much as they have digitized, is probably a lot of information, way too much for a regular human to sift through to find patterns, or even a whole different species, apparently a whole hybrid, a hybrid ancestor from way back when. It's just very fascinating that I think that this is there's a biblical aspect to this, right? There's the whole Genesis 6 account. And some might even argue that there could be like a pre-Adamic thing going on here. We don't know exactly. I think science, in terms of these types of inquiries, are just tapping into really just a small part of the bigger picture that I think the Bible provides a complete look or complete view of. Maybe not all the details, but definitely sort of the main narrative or the most important narratives that we need to understand. But in any case, let me go on here. Using a statistical technique called Bayesian inference, the researchers found evidence of what they called a third introgression, a ghost archaic population that modern humans interbred with during the African exodus. Yeah, this is weird because I always, it's the evolutionary thing. They always talk about like the Neanderthals and the ones that came out of Africa. But all of a sudden, it's like all these news and scientific stuff coming out about hybrids. Like, what were these other things? Are they just other monkey people? Like, where did they come from? Evolution? I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I guess they have like the one branch that we, humans evolved from or whatever. That's their narrative. That I think it's a bunch of bullhickey, But let me just go on here. Quote. This population is either related to the Neanderthal Denisova clade or diverged early from the Denisova lineage, the researchers write in their paper, meaning that it's possible this third population in humanity's sexual history was possibly a mix themselves of Neanderthals and Denisovans. In a sense, from the vantage point of deep learning, it's a hypothetical corroboration of sorts of the teenage girl hybrid fossil identified last year, although it's early days, and the research project themselves aren't directly linked. Okay, so this is a good point here because I remember that there was a story about this, and that's what I was mentioning, that this idea that there was another hybrid ancestor that they mated with that came out a few months ago. So this is different from that. Quote, our theory coincides with the hybrid specimen discovered recently in Denisova, although as yet we cannot rule out other possibilities, says one of the team, genomicist Mayak Mondal from the University of Tartu in Estonia. Estonia, yeah. That being said, the discoveries being made in this area of science are coming thick and fast. Sorry, I don't know why that made me laugh. The discoveries are coming in thick and fast, folks. All right, sorry about that. I just thought it was funny. Made me laugh. Last year, another team of researchers identified evidence of what they called a definite third interbreeding event alongside Denisovans and Neanderthals, and a pair of papers published just a fortnight ago traced the timeline of how those extinct species intersected and interbred in clearer detail than ever before. There's a lot more research yet to be done. Applying this kind of AI analysis is a decidedly new technique in the field of human ancestry, and the known fossil evidence we're dealing with is amazingly scant. There you go, answering some of the questions I had earlier. But according to the research, what the team has found explains not only a long-forgotten process of introgression, it's a dalliance that in its own way informs part of who we are today. Quote, we thought we'd try to find these places of high divergence in the genome, see which are Neanderthal and which are Denisovan, and then see whether these explain the whole picture, Bertrand Petit told Smithsonian. As it happens, if you subtract the Neanderthal and Denisovan parts, there is still something in the genome that is highly divergent. So there you go. Again, this is interesting because the AI curates and looks for these patterns. I just think it's fascinating that we live in this time where we're deconstructing the human genome in a way where it's trying to understand and figure out our history and all this kind of stuff. And even then, again, I think, what if the AI can lie to us? What if it makes a mistake? We just presuppose that the AI is not making any mistakes, that it is pulling up these patterns and they're there, and whatever, that it implies some teenage girl hybrid along the way. So who knows? But interesting story. I thought it was something that is both AI related and a little bit related with some of the biblical history that we're into here at Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk. But the last story I wanted to bring to your attention, this is zdnet.com. Russia to disconnect from the internet as part of a planned test. Yeah, Russia doing some planned tests. Russian authorities and major internet providers are planning to disconnect the country from the internet as part of a planned experiment, Russian news agency Rosbusiness Consulting, RBK, reported last week. The reason for the experiment is to gather insight and provide feedback and modifications to a proposed law introduced in the Russian parliament in December 2018. The first draft of the law mandates that Russian internet providers should ensure the independence of the Russian internet space, RUNET, in the case of foreign aggression to disconnect the country from the rest of the internet. In addition, Russian telecom firms would also have to install technical means to reroute all Russian internet traffic to exchange points approved or managed by the Roskomnadzor, Russia's Russia's telecom watchdog. Roskomnadzor will inspect the traffic to block prohibited content and make sure traffic between Russian users stay inside the country and is not rerouted uselessly through servers abroad where it could be intercepted. A date for the test has not been revealed, but it's supposed to take place before April 1st, the deadline for submitting amendments to the law known as the Digital Economy National Program. The test disconnect experiment has been agreed on in a session of the Information Security Working Group at the end of January. Natalia Kaspersky, director of Russian cybersecurity firm InfoWatch and co-founder of Kaspersky Lab, presided over the group, which also includes major Russian telcos such as Megafon, Beeline, MTS, Rostelecom, and others. RBK reported that all internet providers agreed with the law's goals, but disagreed with its technical implementation, which they believe will cause major disruption to Russian internet traffic. The test disconnection would provide ISPs with data about how their network would react. And it goes on here, a couple more things. Actually here, the Russian government has been working on this project for years. In 2017, Russian officials said they plan to route 95% of all internet traffic locally by 2020. And it goes on, but one thing that they don't mention in this article that I think is worth mentioning is that the creator of one of the biggest cryptocurrencies out there called Ethereum is from Russia, I believe, and his name is Vitalik Buterin. And there have been some rumors and some reports, who knows if they're true, that Vitalik met with Putin and that there are some developments perhaps being made of using Ethereum, the platform, which is a smart contract platform, to write Russian laws. And if you think about what the new Internet 3.0, decentralized internet, all that stuff is, it is a separation, a whole different internet, a network that would be, again, decentralized, so maintained by, a host of computers instead of just one central server location or a series of them. And that could be something that Putin is developing in Russia with the help of somebody like Vitalik Buterin. And also, most of you guys have heard of Telegram, which is a pretty big communication network here, or I guess a platform or app. The guy who created that, Pavel Durov, he's also from Russia, and he actually, they've been working on this thing called the Telegram Open Network, TON, and I think they raised like almost $2 billion last year in an ICO, and they haven't had their product out yet, but I think they're getting ready to do that. But in any case, Russia tried to hijack his stuff. They tried to prevent, I think, the Telegram app to be released in Russia. And I think the Russian government even attempted to force Durov into sharing the app's encryption keys, claiming that it was a requisite under their current telecom laws. And Durov refused. And, again, it was detrimental to the growth of the service in Russia, but it was positive towards protecting privacy and free speech. So all these nations are creating these systems now that seem to be its own internet, its own internal internet. And the United States, perhaps with its AI executive order, is doing the same thing. But they're also integrated, and I guess a cross-nation communication will be more heavily monitored in this new system where each nation state or, you know, I guess nation, corporate state, can have their own system, their own network, of which can be monitored and of which can be interoperable with other networks across the world and across different countries and stuff. But the communication between the two will be much more transparent and controlled. So that's where we're headed. I'm out of time, guys. I'm going to keep going here with the extended report and talk about a couple stories that I have lined up. And yeah, again, Basil will be back hopefully next week. He will feel better and he can go. And again, special shout out to patrons. I'll see you guys, especially those in the $5 and above tier. I'll see you in the extended report. Make sure to sign up for Twitch, Facebook, community, canarycrynewstalk.com to get the ag list. And what else? Patreon.com/CCNT. I think that's it. So thank you guys for your attention. Oh, I gotta rattle some cages here.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
I will not hide behind a wall of stone while others fight our battles for us.
And always remember to think outside the cage.